Hello and welcome back to Brendan Moyer's Playwright Corner, where I read plays, poems, or whatever is currently striking my fancy at the moment. Today we're going to be continuing on with our August Strindberg escapade with The Father, a tragedy in 3 acts. The characters are the captain, Laura his wife, Bertha their daughter, Dr. Oostermark, the pastor, the nurse, Noid, and the orderly. The whole play takes place in the central living room of the captain's home. He is a cavalry officer in a remote country district of Sweden. It is about 1886, shortly before Christmas. At the back of the room towards the right, a door leads to the hall. In the left wall there is a door to other rooms, and in the right-hand corner another smaller door, covered in the same wallpaper as the walls, opens on to a staircase leading to the captain's room above. In the center of the room stands a large round table on which are newspapers, magazines, a big photograph album, and a lamp. On the right are a leather-covered sofa, armchairs, and a smaller table. On the left is a writing bureau with a pendulum clock upon it. Arms, guns, and gun bags hang on the walls, and military coats on pegs by the door to the hall. Act 1. Early evening. The lamp on the table is lighted. The captain and the pastor are sitting on the sofa talking. The captain is in undress uniform with riding boots and spurs. The pastor wears black, with a white cravat in place of his clerical collar, and is smoking a pipe. The captain rises and rings a bell. The orderly enters from the hall. Orderly. Yes, sir? Captain. Is Noid there? Orderly. Noid's in the kitchen, sir, waiting for orders. In the kitchen again, is he? Send him here at once. Yes, sir. Exit. Pastor. Why, what's the trouble? Oh, the ruffian's been at his tricks again with one of the servant girls. He's a damn nuisance, that fellow. Was it Noid, you said? Didn't he give some trouble back in the spring? Ah, you remember that, do you? Look here, you give him a bit of a talking to, there's a good chap. That might have some effect. I've sworn at him and thrashed him without making the least impression. So now you want me to preach to him? How much impression do you think God's word is likely to make on a trooper? Well, my dear brother-in-law, it makes none at all on me, as you know, but as I know only too well. But on him? Worth trying anyhow. Enter Noid. What have you been up to, Noid? Noid. God bless you, Sarah. I can't talk about that. Not with the pastor here. Pastor. Don't mind me, my lad. Noid. Well, you see, sir, it was like this. We was at a dance at Gabriel's and then Ludwig said, what's Ludwig got to do with it? Stick to the point. Well then, Emma said as we should go in the barn. I see. I suppose it was Emma who led you astray? Well, not far from it. What I mean is if the girl's not game, nothing don't happen. Once and for all, are you the child's father or are you not? I was one to know. What on earth do you mean? Don't you know? No. You see, sir, that's what you never can know. You mean you weren't the only man? That time I was. But you can't tell if you've always been the only one. Are you trying to put the blame on Ludwig? Is that the idea? It's not easy to know who to put the blame on. But, look here. You told Emma you would marry her. Oh, well, you always had to say that, you know. Pastor. It's the old story. Come now, Noid. Surely you're man enough to know if you are the father. Well, sir, it's true. I did go with her, but you know yourself, Pastor, that don't always lead to nothing. Look here, my lad. It's you we are talking about. And you are not going to leave that girl destitute with a child. You can't be forced to marry her, but you must make provision for the child. That you must do. So must Ludwig, then. Captain, if that's how it is, the case will have to go before the magistrate. I can't settle it, and it's really nothing to do with me. Dismiss. Pastor. One moment, Noid. Don't you think it's rather a dirty trick to leave a girl destitute with a child like that? Don't you think so? Eh? Yes, if I knew I was a father, it would be. But I tell you, Pastor, you never can know that. And it wouldn't be much fun slaving all your life for another chap's brat. You and the captain must see that for yourselves. Captain, that will do, Noid. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. And keep out of the kitchen, you scoundrel. Exit Noid. Why didn't you haul him over the coals? What do you mean? Didn't I? No, you just sat there muttering to yourself. As a matter of fact, I scarcely knew what to say to him. It's hard on the girl, of course, but it's hard on the boy, too. Supposing he's not the father. The girl can nurse the baby for 4 months at the orphanage, and after that it will be taken care of for good. But the boy can't nurse the child, can he? Later on the girl will get a good place in some respectable family, but if the boy is cashiered, his future may be ruined. Upon my soul, I'd like to be the magistrate and judge this case. Maybe the boy is responsible. That's what you can't know. But one thing you can know, if anyone's guilty, the girl is. Well, I never sit in judgment. Now, what was it we were talking about when this blessed business interrupted us? Yes, Bertha and her confirmation, wasn't it? It's not just a question of confirmation, but of her whole future. The house is full of women, all trying to mold this child of mine. My mother-in-law wants to turn her into a spiritualist. Laura wants her to be an artist. The governess would have her be a Methodist. Old Margaret a Baptist, and the servant girl's a Salvation Army lass. You can't make a character out of a patchwork. Meanwhile, I who have more rights than the rest of to guide her, am opposed at every turn. So I must send her away. You have too many women running your house. You're right there. It's like going into a cage of tigers. They'd soon tear me to pieces if I didn't hold a red-hot poker under their noses. It's all very well for you to laugh, you blackguard. It wasn't enough that I married your sister. You had to palm off your old stepmother on me, too. Well, good Lord, one can't have stepmothers in one's house. No. You prefer mothers-in-law. In someone else's house, of course. Well, we all have our burdens to bear. I dare say. But I have more than my share. There's my old nurse, too, who treats me as if I still wore a bib. She's a good old soul, to be sure, but she shouldn't be here. You should keep your womenfolk in order, Adolf. You give them too much rope. My dear fellow, can you tell me how to keep women in order? To tell the truth, although she's my sister, Laura was always a bit of a handful. Laura has her faults, of course, but they're not very serious ones. Oh, come now. I know her. She was brought up with romantic ideas and has always found it a little difficult to come to terms with life. But she is my wife, and because she is your wife, she must be the best of women. No, brother-in-law. It's she, not you, who wears the trousers. In any case, the whole household has gone mad. Laura's determined Bertha shan't leave her, and I won't let her stay in this lunatic asylum. So Laura's determined, is she? Then there's bound to be trouble, I'm afraid. As a child, she used to lie down and sham dead until they gave in to her. Then she would calmly hand back whatever she'd set her mind on, explaining it wasn't the thing she wanted, but simply to get her own way. So she was like that even then, was she? As a matter of fact, she does sometimes get so overwrought I'm frightened for her and think she must be ill. What is it you want Bertha to do that's such a bone of contention? Can't you come to some agreement? Don't think I want to turn her into a prodigy or some other image of myself. But I will not play pander and have my daughter fitted for nothing but the marriage market. For then, if she didn't marry at all, she'd have a wretched time of it. On the other hand, I don't want to start her off in some man's career with a long training that would be entirely wasted if she did marry. Well, what do you want, then? I want her to be a teacher. Then, if she doesn't marry, she'll be able to support herself, and at least be no worse off than those unfortunate schoolmasters who have to support families on their earnings. And if she does marry, she can educate her own children. Isn't that reasonable? Reasonable, yes. But what about her artistic talent? Wouldn't it be against the grain to repress that? No. I showed her attempts to a well-known painter who told me they were nothing but the usual sort of thing learnt at school. Then, during the summer, some young jackanapes came along who knew better and said she was a genius, whereupon the matter was settled in Laura's favour. Was he in love with Bertha? I take that for granted. Well, God help you, my boy. I don't see any solution. But it's a tiresome business. And I suppose Laura has other supporters in there. Indicates other rooms. You may be sure of that. The whole household is in an uproar, and between ourselves the method of attack from the which quarter is not exactly chivalrous. Pastor, rising. Do you think I haven't been through it? You too. Yes, indeed. But to me the worst thing about it is that Bertha's future should be decided in there from motives of sheer hate. They do nothing but talk about men being made to see that women can do this and do that. It's man versus woman the whole day long. Must you go? Won't you stay to supper? I don't know what there is, but do stay. I'm expecting the new doctor, you know. Have you seen him yet? I caught a glimpse of him on my way here. He looks a decent, reliable sort of man. That's good. Do you think he may be my ally? Maybe. It depends how well he knows women. But won't you stay? Thank you, my dear fellow, but I promised to be home this evening, and my wife gets anxious if I'm late. Anxious? Furious, you mean? Well, as you please. Let me help you on with your coat. It certainly is very cold tonight. Thank you. You must look after yourself, Adolf. You seem a bit on edge. On edge? Do I? Yes. You aren't very well, are you? Did Laura put this into your head? For the last 20 years she's been treating me as if I had one foot in the grave. Laura? No, it's just that I'm worried about you. Take my advice and look after yourself. Goodbye, old man. By the way, didn't you want to talk about the confirmation? By no means. But I give you my word, this shall take its own course, and be chalked up to the official conscience. I am neither a witness to the truth nor a martyr. We have got past that sort of thing. Goodbye. Remember me to your wife. Goodbye, Adolf. Give my love to Laura. Exit Pastor. The captain opens the bureau and settles down to his accounts. 39, 40, 34, 9, 43, 7, 8, 56. Laura, entering from the next room. Will you please, Captain? 1 moment. 66, 71, 84, 89, 9200. What is it? Am I disturbing you? Not in the least. Housekeeping money, I suppose? Yes. Housekeeping money. If you put the accounts down there, I will go through them. Accounts? Yes. Do you expect me to keep accounts now? Of course you must keep accounts. Our position's most precarious, and if we go bankrupt, we must have accounts to show. Otherwise we could be accused of negligence. It's not my fault if we're in debt. That's what the accounts will show. It's not my fault the tenant farmer doesn't pay. Who was it who recommended him so strongly? You. Why did you recommend such a... shall we call him a scatterbrain? Why did you take on such a scatterbrain? Because I wasn't allowed to eat in peace, sleep in peace, or work in peace till you got him here. You wanted him because your brother wanted to get rid of him. My mother-in-law wanted him because I didn't. The governess wanted him because he was a Methodist, and old Margaret because she had known his grandmother as a child. That's why. And if I hadn't taken him, I should be in a lunatic asylum by now, or else in the family vault. However, here's the housekeeping allowance and your pin money. You can give me the accounts later. Laura, with an ironic bob. Thank you so much. By the way, do you keep accounts yourself of what you spend outside the household? That's none of your business. True. As little my business as the future of my own child. Did you gentlemen come to any decision at this evening's conference? I had already made my decision, so I merely had to communicate it with the only friend I have in the family. Bertha is going to live in town. She will leave in a fortnight's time. Where, if I may ask, is she going to stay? At Saveberg's, the solicitors. That freethinker! According to the law as it now stands, children are brought up in their father's faith. And the mother has no say in the matter? None whatsoever. She sells her birthright by legal contract and surrenders all her rights. In return, the husband supports her and her child. So she has no rights over her own child. None at all. When you have sold something, you don't expect to get it back and keep the money too. But supposing the father and the mother were to decide things together, how would that work out? I want her to live in town. You want her to live at the house. The mathematical mean would be for her to stop at the railway station, midway between home and town. You see? It's a deadlock. Then the lock must be forced. What was Noyd doing here? That's a professional secret, which the whole kitchen knows. Then doubtless you know it too. I do. And are you ready to sit in judgment? The law does that. The law doesn't say who the child's father is. Well, people know that for themselves. Discerning people say that's what one can never know. How extraordinary. Can't one tell who a child's father is? Apparently not. How perfectly extraordinary. Then how can the father have those rights over the mother's child? He only has them when he takes on the responsibility, or has it forced on him. But of course, in marriage there is no doubt about the paternity. No doubt? I should hope not. But supposing the wife has been unfaithful? Well, such a supposition has no bearing on our problem. Is there anything else you want to ask me about? No. Nothing. Then I shall go up to my room. Please let me know when the doctor comes. Closes the bureau and rises. I will. Captain, going out by the wallpapered door. As soon as he comes, mind. I don't want to be discourteous, you understand. Exit. Laura. I understand. She looks at the banknotes she is holding. Mother-in-law. Off. Laura. Laura. Yes, mother? Mother-in-law. Is my tea ready? Laura. At the other door to the next room. It's coming in a moment. The orderly opens the hall door. Orderly. Dr. Oostermark. Enter doctor. Exit orderly, closing the door. Laura, shaking hands. How do you do, Dr. Oostermark? Let me welcome you into our home. The captain is out, but he will be back directly. Doctor. I must apologize for calling so late, but I have already had to pay some professional visits. Won't you sit down? Thank you. Yes, there is a lot of illness about just now, but I hope all the same that you will find this place suits you. It is so important for people in a lonely country district like this to have a doctor who takes a real interest in his patients. I have heard you so warmly spoken of, Dr. Oostermark. I hope we shall be on the best of terms. You are too kind, dear lady. I hope, however, for your sake that my visits here will not often be of a professional nature. I take it that the health of your family is... Yes, we have been fortunate enough to not have any serious illnesses. But, all the same, things are not quite as they should be. Indeed? No, I'm afraid not really at all as one would wish. Dear, you quite alarm me. In a family there are sometimes things which honor and duty compel one to keep hidden from the world. But not from one's doctor. No. That is why it is my painful duty to tell you the whole truth from the start. May we not postpone this conversation until I've had the honor of meeting the captain. No, you must hear what I have to say before you see him. Does it concern him, then? Yes, him. My poor dear husband. You are making me most uneasy. Whatever your trouble, madam, you can confide in me. Laura, taking out her handkerchief. My husband's mind is affected. Now you know. And later on you will be able to judge for yourself. Doctor, you astound me. The captain's learned treatise on mineralogy, for which I have the greatest admiration, shows a clear and powerful intellect. Does it? I shall be overjoyed if we, his relatives, are mistaken. Well, it is possible, of course, that his mind is disturbed in other ways. Tell me. That is exactly what we fear. You see, at times he has the most peculiar ideas, which wouldn't matter much for a scientist if they weren't such a burden on his family. For instance, he has an absolute mania for buying things. That is significant. What kind of things? Books. Whole cases of them, which he never reads. Well, that a scholar should buy books isn't so alarming. You don't believe what I'm telling you? I am convinced, madam, that you believe what you are telling me. Well, then, is it possible for anyone to see in a microscope what's happening on another planet? Does he say he can do that? Yes, that's what he says. In a microscope. In a microscope, yes. That is significant if it is so. If it is so. You don't believe me, doctor. And here have I let you into the family secret. My dear lady, I am honored by your confidence, but as a physician I must observe and examine before giving an opinion. Has the captain shown any symptoms of instability, any lack of willpower? Yes, he has. We have been married 20 years, and he has never yet made a decision without going back on it. Is he dogmatic? He certainly lays down the law. But as soon as he gets his own way, he loses interest, and leaves everything to me. That is significant and requires careful consideration. The will, you see, madam, is the backbone of the mind. If it is injured, the mind falls to pieces. God knows how I have schooled myself to meet his every wish during these long, hard years. Oh, if you knew what I have been through with him, if you only knew! I am profoundly distressed to learn of your trouble, madam, and I promise I will do what I can. You have my deepest sympathy, and I beg you to rely on me implicitly. But now you have told me this, I'm going to ask one thing of you. Don't allow anything to prey on the patient's mind. In a case of instability, ideas can sometimes take hold and grow into obsession, or even monomania. Do you follow me? You mean don't let him get ideas into his head? Precisely. For a sick man can be made to believe anything. He is highly susceptible to suggestion. I see. I understand. Yes, indeed. A bell rings within. Excuse me. That's my mother ringing. I won't be a moment. Oh, here's Adolf. As Laura goes out, the captain enters by the wallpapered door. Captain. Ah, so you've arrived, Doctor. You are very welcome. How do you do, Captain? It's a great honor to meet such a distinguished scientist. Oh, please. Unfortunately, my military duties don't give me much time for research. All the same, I do believe I am now on the brink of a rather exciting discovery. Really? You see, I've been subjecting meteoric stones to spectrum analysis, and I have found carbon, an indication of organic life. What do you say to that? Can you see that in a microscope? No, in a spectroscope, for heaven's sake. Spectroscope? I beg your pardon. Then you will soon be telling us what is happening on Jupiter. Not what is happening. What has happened. If only that blasted Paris bookseller would send my books. I really think the whole book trade must be in league against me. Think of it. For 2 months I've not had one single answer to my orders, my letters, or my abusive telegrams. It's driving me mad. I can't make out what's happened. Well, what could it be but ordinary carelessness? You shouldn't let it upset you. Yes, but the devil of it is I shan't be able to get my article finished in time. I know they're working on the same lines in Berlin. However, that's not what we should be talking about now. But about you. If you would care to live here, we can give you a small suite of rooms in that wing. Or would you prefer your predecessor's house? Whichever you please. No, whichever you please. You have the only say. It's for you to decide, Captain. Nothing of the kind. It's for you to say which you prefer. I don't care which way one or another. But I really can't. For Christ's sake, man, say what you want. I haven't any opinion or any inclination, any choice, any preference at all. Are you such a milksop that you don't know what you want? Make up your mind or I shall lose my temper. If I am to choose, I should like to live here. Good. Thank you. Rings. Oh, dear me. I apologize, Doctor, but nothing irritates me so much as to hear other people say they don't care one way or the other. The nurse enters. Ah, it's you, Margaret. Do you know if the rooms in the wing are ready for the doctor? Nurse. Yes, Captain, they're ready. Good. Then I won't detain you, Doctor, for you must be tired. Good night, and once again, welcome. I look forward to seeing you in the morning. Thank you. Good night. Oh, by the way, I wonder if my wife told you anything about us. If you know at all how the land lies. The good lady did suggest 1 or 2 things it might be as well for a newcomer to know. Good night, Captain. The nurse shows the doctor out and returns. What is it, old girl? Anything the matter? Now, listen, Mr. Adolf, dear. Yes, go on, Margaret, talk. You're the only one whose talk doesn't get on my nerves. Then listen, Mr. Adolf. Couldn't you go halfway to meet the mistress and all this bother over the child? Think of a mother, think of a father, Margaret. Now. A father has many things besides his child, but a mother has nothing but her child. Quite so, my friend. She is only one burden, while I have 3 and bear hers too. Do you think I'd have been stuck in the army all my life if I hadn't had her and her child to support? I know, but that wasn't what I wanted to talk about. Quite. What you want is to make out I'm in the wrong. Don't you believe I want what's best for you, Mr. Adolf? I'm sure you do, my dear. But you don't know what is best for me. You see, it's not enough to have given the child life. I want to give her my very soul. Oh, that's beyond me. But I do think you two ought to come to terms, Margaret. You are not my friend. Not your friend? Oh, God, what are you saying, Mr. Adolf? Do you think I ever forget you were my baby when you were little? Well, my dear, am I likely to forget it? You have been like a mother to me and stood by me against all the others. But now that things have come to a head, you're deserting. You know perfectly well how things are here. You've seen it all from beginning to end. I have seen plenty. But dear God, why must 2 people torment the lives out of each other? 2 people who are so good and kind to everybody else. The mistress never treats me wrong or only me. I know. And I tell you, Margaret, if you desert me now, you'll be doing a wicked thing. For a net is closing around me. And that doctor is no friend of mine. Oh, goodness, Mr. Adolf, you believe the worst of everyone. That's what comes of not having the true faith. That's your trouble. Well, you and the Baptists have found the one true faith, eh? You're lucky. Aye. Luckier than you are, Mr. Adolf. Humble your heart, and you will see how happy God will make you in your love for your neighbor. Isn't it strange? As soon as you mention God and love, your voice grows hard and your eyes fill with hate. No, Margaret, I am sure you haven't found the true faith. However proud you are and stuffed with book learning, that won't get you anywhere when the pinch comes. How arrogantly thou speakest, O humble heart! I'm well aware that learning means nothing to creatures like you. Shame on you! Still, old Margaret loves her great big boy best of all. And when the storm breaks, he'll come back to her sure enough, like the good child he is. Forgive me, Margaret. You see, you really are the only friend I have here. Help me, for something is going to happen. I don't know what, but I know it's evil, this thing that's on its way. A scream from within. What's that? Who's screaming? Bertha runs in. Bertha. Father! Father, help me, save me! What is it, my darling? Tell me. Please protect me. I know she'll do something terrible to me. Who? Grandmother. But it was my fault. I played a trick on her. Go on. Yes, but you mustn't tell anyone. Promise you won't. Very well. But what has happened? Exit nurse. Bertha. You see, sometimes in the evening she turns the lamp down and makes me sit at the table holding a pen over a piece of paper. And then she says the spirit's right. Well, I'll be damned. And you never told me? I'm sorry, I didn't dare. Grandmother says spirits revenge themselves on people who talk about them. And then the pen writes, but I don't know if it's me doing it or not. Sometimes it goes well, but sometimes it doesn't work at all. And when I get tired, nothing happens. But I have to make something happen all the same. This evening, I thought I was doing rather well, but then Grandmother said that it was all out of Stagnalius, and I had been playing a trick on her. And she was simply furious. Do you believe there are spirits? I don't know. But I know there are not. Grandmother says that you don't understand, and that you have worse things that can see into other planets. She says that, does she? And what else does she say? That you can't work miracles. I never said I could. You know what meteorites are, don't you? Stones that fall from other heavenly bodies. I examine these and see if they contain the same elements as the Earth. That's all I do. Grandmother says there are things she can see and you can't. My dear, she is lying. Grandmother doesn't lie. How do you know? Then Mother lies too. If you say Mother is a liar, I'll never believe a single word you say again. I didn't say that. So now you must believe me. Listen, your happiness, your whole future depends on your leaving home. Will you do this? Will you go and live in town and learn something useful? Oh, yes. I'd love to live in town, anywhere away from here. It's always so miserable in there, as gloomy as a winter night. But when you come home, Father, it's like a spring morning when they take the double windows down. My darling. My beloved child. But Father, listen. You must be kind to Mother. She often cries. So, would you like to live in town? Oh, yes. But supposing your mother doesn't agree? She must, but supposing she doesn't? Then I don't know what will happen. But she must. Will you ask her? No. You must ask her, very nicely. She wouldn't pay any attention to me. Well, now, if you want this, and I want it, and she doesn't want it, what are we to do then? Oh, then the fuss will begin all over again. Why can't you both... Enter Laura. Ah, so you're here, Bertha. Well now, Adolf, as the question of her future is still to be decided, let's hear what she has to say herself. The child can hardly have anything constructive to say about the development of young girls. But you and I ought to be able to sum up the pros and cons. We've watched a good number grow up. But as we don't agree, Bertha can give the casting vote. No. I won't allow anyone to interfere with my rights, neither woman nor child. Bertha, you had better leave us. Exit Bertha. You were afraid to hear her opinion because you knew she would agree with me. I know she wants to leave home, but I also know you have the power to change her mind. Oh? Have I much power? Yes. You have a fiendish power of getting your own way, like all people who are unscrupulous about the means they employ. How, for instance, did you get rid of Dr. Norling? And how did you get hold of the new doctor? Yes. How did I? You ran the old doctor down until he had to leave. And then you got your brother to canvass for this one. Well, that was quite simple and perfectly legal. Then is Bertha to leave home? Yes. I warn you, I shall do my best to prevent it. You can't. Can't I? Do you expect me to give up my child to be taught by wicked people that all she has learnt from her mother is nonsense? So that I would be despised by my own daughter for the rest of my life? You expect me to allow ignorant and bumptious women to teach my daughter that her father is a charlatan? That shouldn't matter so much to you. Now. What on earth do you mean? Well, the mother's closer to the child, since the discovery that no one can tell who the father is. What's that got to do with us? You don't know if you're Bertha's father. Don't know? How can you know what nobody knows? Are you joking? No, I'm simply applying your own theory. How do you know I haven't been unfaithful to you? I can believe a good deal of you, but not that. And if it were so, you wouldn't talk about it. Supposing I were prepared for anything, for being turned out and ostracized, anything to keep my child under my own control. Suppose I am telling the truth now when I say, Bertha is my child, but not yours. Supposing... Stop it, just supposing. Then your power would be over. Not till you had proven I wasn't the father. That wouldn't be difficult. Do you want me to? Stop. I should only have to give the name of the real father, with particulars of place and time, of course. For that matter, when was Bertha born? In the 3rd year of our marriage. Will you stop it now, or what? Very well. Let's stop. All the same, I should think twice before you decide anything. And above all, don't make yourself ridiculous. I find the whole thing tragic, which makes you still more ridiculous. But not you? No. We're in such a strong position. That's why we can't fight you. Why try to fight a superior enemy? Superior? Yes. It's odd, but I have never been able to look at a man without feeling myself his superior. One day you will meet your master, and you'll never forget it. That will be fascinating. Enter nurse. Supper's ready. Come along now, please. Yes. Of course. The captain lingers and sits down in an armchair near the sofa. Aren't you coming? Captain. No, thank you. I don't want any supper. Why not? Has anything upset you? No. But I'm not hungry. Do come. Or they'll start asking questions, and that's not necessary. Do be sensible. You won't? Well, stay where you are then. Exit. Nurse. Mr. Adolf, whatever is it now? I don't know yet. Tell me, why do you women treat a grown man as if he were a child? Well, goodness me, you're all some woman's child. Aren't you? All you men, big or small, well, no woman is born of man, you mean. True. But I must be Bertha's father. You believe that, Margaret, don't you? Don't you? Lord, what a silly boy you are. Of course you're your own child's father. Come along and eat now. Don't sit here sulking. There now. Come along, do. Captain, rising. Get out, woman! To hell with the hags! At the hall door. Sverd! Sverd! Orderly, entering. Yes, sir? Have the small sleigh got ready at once. Exit orderly. Nurse. Now listen, Captain. Get out, woman! Get out, I say! God preserve us, whatever's going to happen now? Captain, putting on his cap. Don't expect me home before midnight. Exit. Nurse. Lord Jesus. What is going to happen?